is SMITE's most played game mode, and on some servers one of the 3 casual modes Hi-Res lets you play. Anyway, this video is all about helping new and experienced players better understand Arena. I'm going to start by talking about the basics of the game mode, including the most important thing in Arena, then go into the 5 main roles. All with the assistance of Amon, who has the most important line in the video. Isn't that right?
Make sure to...
Not yet, Amon. This mode is 5v5, has 3 jungle buffs on each side, and a minion wave in the middle. Each team starts with 500 tickets, and they can remove enemy team tickets by killing gods, minions, or pushing minions and the big dude through the portal. And what's the most important part of all of it? I asked Mythimu first for his opinion on this, since I thought he wouldn't be too busy. And he was left speechless. Then I built up the courage to ask Punkduck, who replied,
Surprisingly, killing minions. Although I wouldn't recommend Arena for a new player. Teaches pretty much nothing. Try Joust, Siege or Conquest.
I agree with this on a spiritual level, but Oceania has no Siege and Conquest almost always has OPL players. But yes, minions are the most important part of every Arena match. A quick reminder, a god must get the last hit on a minion to remove a ticket, so any minion on minion action is going to put you behind. You should mostly focus your fighting in the middle of the map for this reason, since it allows you to clear and fight at the same time. Fighting around the jungle buff area means no one's clearing and just one enemy god can push minions into the portal. Remember, one minion wave counts as 12 tickets because not only are you losing tickets, you didn't kill the minions and remove their tickets. You'd need to win a fight by 3 kills to be better off, which itself only puts you 3 ahead. It also makes it harder to push one of your waves through since you'll have to rotate all the way back to mid after your fight. You may be thinking, what if they're low, they could get away? Well, we'll get back to that later, trust. If minions are the most important part of Arena, then the, I don't know what it's called, escort, big green guy, objective, tower, that thing's the king anyway. You push that in and boom, 15 targets taken off. They spawn every 10 kills a team gets, so if you're on 9, it's a good idea to try sneak a kill and apply some pressure before it arrives. The other team is going to have to invest a decent amount of abilities to stop it, and if you manage to push it into their half of the map without taking damage, you can potentially bait a few ults as well. This instantly gives you an advantage in a fight. Obviously not dying is important here, but if you get in the way and get yourself killed to push it in, that's still a 10 ticket win. Also, killing an enemy dude does not take away 15 tickets, it's a one-way affair. Now, where do jungle buffs come into all this? While a buff on your damage or cooldowns is helpful, it shouldn't be a priority. Pushing mid still has better rewards even in the long run than dominating the jungle. There isn't always stuff going on in the middle of the map however, and in that time you can take a buff or 2. Just make sure not to be in the jungle too long, since it can allow the enemy team to apply pressure mid lane. The same goes for their team as well. If you see that they're missing Myrtle, you can push them back and try get a kill or pick someone isolated. And if those people in the jungle choose to walk back to mid, they're an easy pick too, because they're by themselves. Now before I move on to the different roles in Arena, I'm just going to cover some trivial starting stuff. When you start a game, there are 3 main options for where to go. Amon, zip it! Firstly, the majority of the time you go to the left jungle and clear your own buffs. Ideally, you start by taking both the blue and the red buff, and you pull them close together so you can damage both of them at the same time. The mage generally gets the blue buff and goes to clear wave instead of helping with the purple buff. The red buff generally goes to your assassin or whoever has the best early game damage. The purple buff goes to the hunter. Getting to mid first gives you a big advantage, so don't be afraid to use abilities. Using too many however means you're going to have to back earlier. Getting there first allows you to put a lot of pressure on the enemy team, who are trying to walk past you to clear the minion wave. Try to get a kill on the squishy gods, like a mage or a hunter, then start pressuring the rest of the team. Straight away you've got a sizable lead and good pressure mid lane. The second option is to invade their buffs, which are on the right side of your map. This requires good communication and your whole team to be on board to work well. You can try to take their blue and red buffs while they're doing it, but this is a high risk and reward tactic. You could potentially get yourself killed if they are good early game gods, and you might not secure either buff. If you do though, that's a big experience and gold lead early on. Another option is to do their purple buff and go straight to mid from there. You're less likely to be in the fight or fail to secure it, but you're only getting 1 buff rather than 2 or more, and you're potentially getting no kills. After the first mid wave, you'd ideally look to clear the left buffs. The third site is very unconventional and will require a lot of communication and timing. I'm sure it's been done by others before, but this is new to me when I thought of it. The idea is you invade their minion wave as the game starts and don't bother with buffs at all. Your entire team goes through the jungle on the left side of the map and hides behind the top left pillar. When it says minions have spawned, you rush down to the top right phoenix and clear their wave. Most of the time the enemy team will hear you, but due to the sheer confusion factor of this tactic, what happens next will be different every time. If none of them hear you, the mage with the blue buff will look to clear the wave by themselves. Killing them should be easier, as you have 5 people and a whole minion wave to do damage. Then you'd clear the wave that starts at the left side of the map, and your first wave should find its way to the portal. Sometimes the enemy team will start part way through doing their buffs and try and stop you. Rarely are they going to be grouped up, so you will generally have an advantage in any fights that occur. Once everything calms down, you can go get the buffs they didn't do and clear your own jungle as well. Pretty much the only reason the start can work is because no one has any idea what's going on. Now, roles. In Arena there are 5 general roles, but having 2 of one and none of the other isn't the worst thing in the world. They are support, frontline, magical damage, late game / basic attack based damage, and a jungler. Usually you'll end up with a god from each class, but as long as you have a 3-2 split on physical and magical in either order, you should be fine. Then there are sub-roles. They are kill security, reliable CC, healing, bait, and initiation. Kill security is the ability for a god to get a kill on someone who's trying to escape. Reliable CC is pretty much just a stun, a root, anything with a low cooldown and a high CC, like a knock-up as well. Healing is kind of self-explanatory. It could be a team heal or a strong self-heal. Bait is the ability to get another god to try and kill you, and then killing them yourself, or with your team. Initiation is the ability to start a fight effectively. They can be found in any of the main roles, but again, not having a couple of these isn't the end of the world. No! The person playing the magical damage role is your main wave clearer. If your designated mage doesn't have top minion damage, they're doing something wrong. As a mage, never enter a fight if there is a minion wave that needs clearing. Now, if your team's focusing their fight in the middle of the map, that shouldn't be a problem. You can easily shift between clearing and fighting, or maybe even doing both at the same time. But if your team's all the way in the jungle for some reason, they're going to be without their main source of magical damage for a while, since clearing the wave is more important. A mage should only really be out of mid to get a buff. The rest of the time they should be there clearing the wave and fighting. When you're fighting, make sure to only get as close as the enemy team as you must, since you're going to be a desirable target for most of the time. If you notice a Loki or something about to kill you, say enemies behind us or help, and your support should make the effort to protect you if they're good. And maybe even other players. If you say nothing, you're counting on your team to spot them as well, which won't always happen. The best god in this role at the moment is Elph. You'll hate yourself, but you'll probably win. He's especially good with teams that don't focus their fights on the middle of the map very well. His huge range and mobility allows him to clear the wave and help in the jungle faster than any other mage. Dude's got 4 out of 5 of the sub-roles, a good last spam, all the stuff a mage should have. Don't feel like you have to play him though, there's plenty of good mages going around, except Raijin, he's pretty... never mind. Even Guardians can make good magical damages if built right. And when it comes to builds, don't be afraid to stack. Not Warlock stash, it's really not worth it in Arena, but Book of Thoth is a very strong item, and its second tier gives you a lot of magic damage early on. You're going to be clearing a lot anyway, so don't be afraid to give it a go, especially on Thoth who is stacking his passive. If you're started well, Doom can quickly make you a serious threat to the enemy team, but they might also go after you. I have 2 go-to builds for most mages, the first being Book of Thoth, Pen Boots, Gem of Isolation, Spear of Magus, Obsidian Shard, and Rod of Tahuti. I use this mostly on tick damage gods like Thoth and Raijin. Don't be afraid of the penetration gap, it's mostly for show. I mean, Spear of Magus puts you over by itself. And the same goes for power, 900 it's just for looks. This build gives you some serious power and utility through the game. For burst gods like Ra and Nuwa, I would build the following. Book of Thoth, Pen Boots, Ethereal Staff, Soul Reaver, Obsidian Shard, and Rod of Tahuti. If you have a good lead, you can finish a build like this. It makes your burst abilities hit really hard. Sometimes I swap out Book for another pen item if I know there's going to be a lot of wave clearers on the team. Your frontliner is generally a warrior, and it is different to being a solo laner in Conquest. Personally, I'm not a fan of warriors out of Conquest. Their base stats are based around them being a couple levels ahead, which rarely happens in Arena. Guardians, however, are based around being behind, so in Arena they can be relatively stronger, especially with their base damage. What warriors do have, however, is items. Shifter Shield, that one, Gladiator Shield, all the hammers, all great and physically exclusive. Back on track, the main role of a frontliner is to get in the enemy's face. Push them back, waste their abilities, apply pressure, and give your team some peace of mind. Sometimes you might have to fall back and help your allies, especially if they don't have a support or they're missing. The most dominant frontliner right now is Hercules by far. The cunt's dripping CC. He fills 3 of the sub-roles, 4 if you count a self-heal, which I would. It's like a mini bracer of Undoing, and then an even stupider bracer of Undoing every 17 seconds. That's not okay. If you play him in Arena, I hate you, but also understand why you're being such an asshole, because I'm an asshole. Pretty much every warrior could be a frontliner, as well as guardians like Batches, Kumba, and Yima to name a couple. Personally, I love playing Daji, Arachne, Awelix, and even Loki in this role. What I do for them is build Frostalis, so Frostbound Hammer and Fatalis, and lots of tanky items. It's stupid how well it works. Now for builds, the best warrior build varies from warrior to warrior. Personally, I like Shifter Shield and that one, or most of them, if they have a heal, shield, or regrowth. If you want a conclusive one for your god, go to a website like SMITE Fire or smite.guru and have a look. You can try Reddit too, but you're going to get a lot of idiots. I mean, I'm on there, so yeah.
Make sure to...
Supports are the best kind of people. Next time you see someone pick Khepri first, hug them for me. A support's job is to support, pretty much. Your carries are going to be high priorities for the enemy team, and pretty easy to kill, especially if they don't have an escape. Your primary role is to keep those guys alive. Unless you're playing against a full Loki squad, most of the time they're not always going to be under threat, so having good initiation or reliable CC is almost mandatory. Most often there's a guardian in this role, but for some warriors like Amaterasu and Hercules, I mean you could put him pretty much everywhere, work well. Aphrodite is another decent pick. Personally, I like Targny. He has 4 of the 5 sub-roles, and he has good range and mobility to top it off. My go-to build on him is Lonos Mask, Tank Boots, Hide of the Urchin, Gem of Isolation, Stone of Binding, Breastplate of Valor, and Voidstone. Part of the reason why it works is no one expects it, and they will miscalculate how easy it is to kill you, which leads to at least a couple extra kills each match. The most common picks are gods like Yima, Kumbhakana, and Fafnir. They are all very potent gods in Arena, and can switch quickly between support and applying pressure easily. Having any of these gods on your team is going to make pushing in escorts far easier. Fafnir even has his 2, which buffs the attack speed of all allies and adds extra damage to all their attacks. And that extra damage counts as ability damage, don't forget. So building Gem of Isolation, Stone of Binding pretty much gives his team Frostbound Hammer and an extra pen. Which doesn't stack by the way, it just resets. Hunters suck. They ruin metas, take items away from melee characters, and they make you want to rip your hair out. They're super fun to play though. In the current meta, Hunters are generally better picks than auto attack mages, who have more expensive core items and less choices for builds. If Hunters are douchebags, Cernunnos is the douche supreme. If you count his built-in lifesteal as healing, which I'd give it about a half really, he has 5 out of 5 sub-rolls, or 4.5 out of 5. Like what the hell were Hyries thinking? Honestly, I hope when you're watching this, he's been nerfed to hell. If you're gonna sink that low, which I would never do, the best way to manage his 1 is doing a pen basic, and then damage basics, then switching back to pen after the 2-second buff wears off. Even though crits aren't currently meta, the builds right now are pretty cancerous. And we're heading to another Golden Bow incident when it comes to Fatalis, Frostbound Hammer, and Shifter Shield. Okay, nerf that one, I don't even give a shit. They could buff Midgardian Mail, but that just makes Fatalis even more of a core item. I don't know, they'll figure it out. In Arena though, I like to build double Itchable. Do I sell them? Hell no. I use the following build a lot. Itchable, Warrior Tabby, Silver Branch Bow, you can swap with Itchable depending on their gods, Bloodforge, Titan's Bane, and Quinsize. You can afford some lucrative items since none of your first 3 items are over 1.7k gold. Most of the time you'll even get a damage pot or 2 at the end. If you have a built-in attack speed buff or a teammate has Shogun's Kusari, you're going to be very close or over the attack speed cap, and do around 400 per basic. You're pretty much 3-hitting any other mage or hunter, and chunking tanks pretty well too. I wouldn't bother with either Itchable if you're going to sell them, there just isn't enough time for a traditional conquest build in Arena.
Make sure to...
I'm getting the belt, I swear to God. You may be thinking, junglers in Arena, you're a complete moron. Now, I'm not talking about your traditional jungler in Conquest, I'm talking about an Arena jungler. It's a very different role. It's only one of the 5 roles that needs to spend any time in the buff area. Between waves, assuming there's nothing going on, sneaking a buff or 2 allows you to pick up an advantage for the next fight. You want to get as much farm from the wave as possible though, so time your rotations well. The second main role is to apply pressure on the enemy team. Knowing there's like a Loki or a Kali or something lurking around makes most players hang back more, which helps your front line get into their half of the map better. And finally, the third role of an arena jungler is to bait fights. A little assassin sitting by itself in the jungle can be very tempting, and often one or more enemy gods are going to try kill them. In this situation, you could try kill the attackers yourself, which I wouldn't recommend if there's a couple gods chasing you, but 1v1 this is what assassins are designed for, so you should be fine, assuming you haven't fallen too far behind. You could try baiting them into the jungle, which allows your team to push very hard in the middle against a spread out team, and pick up some kills and potentially push minions in, or you could lure them back to your team so they can combo them to death. Assassins are generally the go-to for this role, but mages like Aokwong and the Morrigan, as well as some warriors, can fill this role really well. Assassins with strong CC and initiation, such as Hunvart, Thor, Fenrir and Ratatoska, make for good teammates. They all have strong single target damage, making them good for baiting enemies. Late game carries such as Kali, Mercury, Bakasura and Suket pretty much mean late game is yours, even if you're behind. Never F6 when they're around, or ever. Assassins generally have the biggest range of strengths and weaknesses in my opinion, so there isn't really a standard build. Shifter's Shield is good on most gods at the moment unfortunately, and cooldown reduction makes your life pretty good. Again, head to SMITE Fair or SMITE Guru for specific builds. And yep, that's about it. If you have any more questions, just let me know in the comments. Oh yes, I almost forgot, man. You can say your line now.
Subscribe to this channel and just SMITE. Make sure to smash that like button and follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and now Twitch channels. We live stream there and on YouTube, so make sure to subscribe there to get the latest news of when we stream. Join a Twitch group for this channel, which is called Basic Bitch Support Group. There's gender discretion, the think tank, where skin and God and other SMITE content are posted and talked about. A place for party requests, rants, and help sessions. There's even some voice rooms for parties, so they can easily manage calls. Please join if you feel like helping us out more. Elph is a Fiverr project for every $5 it makes, and you can pick it out if you donate $5 or more. And